So for people who are joining us, we're just getting into the nitty-gritty of us, but how we can have adequate supply of electricity in Nigeria. This has been a story that's been on for ages and ages and ages. I'm sure we've all dreamt of a situation where there will be adequate supply of electricity in our country, and things can happen. So we're talking about the provision of 100,000 megawatts of electricity within 4 years. How are we going to do that? That's what we've been explaining in the last three sessions. And today we're rolling on to the fourth part, which is the fourth session, where we'll round off and then we will move on to the next plans that we have for Nigeria. So in the last three sessions, we've talked about how to identify where we were as at now. What do we have on the ground? How operative are they? What are the problems? What do we think that needed to be done? We covered as well how we believe that it's paramount that we have a country that can process our natural resources, specifically iron ore, which will enable us to be able to have steel, and bauxite, which will enable us to have aluminium. Well, these two metals are just vital to having an industrialized economy, because they are just the foundation behind structure building, and also basic products, goods and amenities. So they are very vital. We talked about those, and we talked about the one industry that we have in Nigeria now that is supposed to be managing those that were that important natural resources, iron ore, which is the Ajaokuta steel complex. Now we looked into where Ajaokuta is at this moment. What are the prospects of making it to become operational, and also what roles are the government playing to kind of disrupt the natural event of building a company and making it operational. So we've looked into all of those, and we've looked into the possibility of what will happen if Ajaokuta starts producing steel. How will we be able to put that to maximum use to industrialize Nigeria? And that's what brought us into face-to-face conflict with provision of electricity. So we've tried to establish that, okay, if we have if we have steel and we have aluminium, then that would put us in a pretty nice position to be able to provide different electricity sources, which of course will include thermal, which is the most popular one and the most cost-effective one. Also, provision of electricity via wind turbines. Now, this is really, really good for us because now that we have lots of steels, we can process them, we can form them. That means that we can make lots and lots of wind turbines. So that put us really in a good advantage because a bigger part of our country have just the right amount of wind speed that we need in able to be able to utilize or maximize the that opportunity of wind turbines. The northern part of the country, especially, they have wind speed in the region of 6 kilometers per second. So that means that that's just reasonably adequate for wind turbines to be able to be very functional effectively. We've got the middle belt, where we've got the lower part of the northern region, um, which is quite reasonably good as well. They are within the range of about 4.5 to 5. These are pretty good for wind turbines as well. So that's really good. And for the southwest and the south-south, although we don't have strong winds over there, but we have strong enough wind that small wind turbines depends, of course, on the structural build of them and the materials used. They can function as well. It's just their rate of production would not be as compared to the northern part of the country. But we've got the south-south that produces wind speed in the range of 3.5 up to about 4, which is quite good. Well, the southwest, um, not very good. They have the same sort of situation with the southeast. This is just, yeah, wind in the range of about 2.5, 3, except for places like Lagos State and Ogun State. They have strong wind there, strong as much as 5 kilometers per second, which is just adequate for wind turbine generation. So we talked about all of these. And then we also talked about other forms or sources of generating electricity, which include hydro. We talked about what we have now, the dams that we have now, like Kanji and all of those, what they are giving us now, which is, of course, the amount of energy that are not just installed, but actually distributed. Uh, and we also talk about the possibility of having Mambila Dam project successfully executed. I mean, at the moment, the Chinese are supposed to complete it. They reckon it should be, well, ready for like 2027. It's costing a boom amount in the region of, yeah, over 5 billion. Over 2.5 billion. So they're expecting something in the region of 5,030 megawatts of electricity to be generated there. So those are the possibilities that we see that will enable us to be able to generate as much as 100,000 of electricity, that will enable us to light Nigeria, every nook and corner of our country, as well as support the industrial revolution that we're planning and backing on. So that's pretty much a roundup of what we've been able to cover um, right through the first 3 sessions of our plans to generate, transmit, and distribute as much as 100,000 megawatts of electricity within 4 years. So today we will pretty much just move on, um, and then try and talk about the operational aspect of these possibilities. Now, I'm talking specifically about how are they being managed now. If we look at all of the different arms of the government, public sector, private sector, that are dealing with the supply of electricity in our country at the moment. Now, of course, we know that most of the participation of the federal government in those 3 arms that plays a role in the management of electricity, um, the government is not the one that owns the majority uh, of those companies. The 3 most operative of those companies are the ones who call the GENCOs, the TRANCOs, and of course the DISCOs. I would like to believe that we all know what those three different arms of operation actually do. The GENCO basically, it's the company or companies that deals with generation of electricity. They are the one that builds all the yeah infrastructures that we use in providing electricity. The government owns majority of the share in that, and but what they've done is they've actually concessioned their operation to the private sector of the economy. So they own it, but they have another part that's actually administering it. So that's the kind of structure that they have. Now, the Tranco um, um, companies, that's supposed to be like, sorry, the GENCO was completely privatized. Sorry, it's the Tranco companies, right, that are owned by the government, but then they are kind of administered by the private sector. So, so that leaves us with Disco, and Disco is pretty much the company that deals with the distribution. They take the electricity that are generated and also transmitted onto the individual. Um, so the operation is basically that GENCO generates, Tranco transmits, and Disco distributes. Now, if we look at how things work out between these three different arms, what we will notice is you have a situation where the money flows from the Disco, which is the arm that's distributing, uh, and it flows onto the Tranco, and so yeah, it flows onto the Tranco and the GENCOs. Now, what that basically means is um, the the disco gets money from the private sector, and they would then distribute or pay the other two arms of operation, which is the Trancos and the Gencos. That's how the money flows through these three different arms. Uh, Now, the federal government, because they haven't some, well, lots of problems with people who are not paying the discos the due amount of money, and also because they're having problems with um, well, capital flow because of these shortfalls between how much the disco are selling and how much they're able to collect back from the general public. They decided to establish another arms of government in between that structure, and that's the Nigerian bulk electricity traders. These are supposed to like just buy the electricity in big bulk, and then sell it to the individual and companies. So what they try to do there is to break that chain and bring in another unit into that process to facilitate collection of debts, as in bills that are due for payment from the public. A lot of people still believe that the introduction of NBET which is the bulk trader company, is not really seen to be helpful in achieving that good flow of funds in between the general public and the discos. But they're still there. But the government is in the future, yeah, they see a possibility of eliminating that unit within the structure. I think that's a very good idea because it's really not that needed. What is really missing is good administration. If each unit can be efficient and effective enough, they don't need an intermediary in between to help in the collection of their debts. They can do that internally if they have the right tools and the right support. So, and of course, the right legislation to be able to enforce when there are defaults or what you call discrepancies with payments. Um, so that's how things are right now, as it is. Um, the one thing that plays a sort of an encapsulating role in all of these, right? It's the establishment of the Electricity Regulatory Commission, the NEC. That's the sole body that deals with all of the operations and the legal aspects of managing the electricity sector in the whole of Nigeria. Are they effective enough? Well, the proof is pretty much in the pudding when you eat it. So it depends on what Nigeria sees and the situation that we feel we're in. Regarding how electricity has been managed. Have they been effective enough? If they are, would we be at where we are now, or would we be in a better position? That would be a question for all of us to answer. But in my opinion, a lot of things need to be done. All of these arms of operation needs to be like very efficient at what they do, use the right tools that will help them in managing all their contractual agreement as well as their operational goals effectively. It's only when they can do that that their positive results would impact other parts of the electricity sector. So basically, they still all need they still need to work really hard so they can bring us into a better place. So so far that's the structure that manages the electricity supply. Are there any comments or
Okay. All right. Let me quickly
observations so
reset the
far?
room quickly. Yeah. Okay. Let me quickly reset the room. You're all welcome to Solution for Nigeria. We discuss a topical issue as concerning Nigerian and things where we can solve our own problem and find a solution to most of the problem that held us back till today. You know, we believe in an industrialized nation, so where all locally and services are rendered locally. So we we start the discussion from the generation of electricity. So our target was discussing the 100,000 megawatt electricity generated and distributed to power the industrials that will be situated across Nigeria. So we have discussed so many things. This is part 4 of. So Brother Femi, welcome, and Brother Edidong, you're welcome to. So, the activities of part 1, 2, and 3. So, to discussing about transmission and distribution.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to the room, Yemi. I just have one question. Are the discos privately owned? Are they fully privately owned?
Well, discos are, yeah, they are privately owned. I mean, you hear sometimes that the federal government still owns a small percentage of it, but from what we know, disco is privately owned.
Yeah, the other clarification I want to get is regarding the um how the discos are managed in other countries. I remember that, for example, in the UK, you have different distribution companies that you can buy from. And I know there used to be Eon. There were a bunch of them that you could buy from. The idea was if the pricing or the service quality was not great from a particular provider, you could easily switch to another provider. Is this a, I mean, I'm not sure whether it's because the discos in this case own the distribution assets that then makes it necessary for the discos to be monopolies.
Yeah, you gave a good description of what is expected um, to be like in a civilized country or country where things work. But right, it's we should be in a situation where we have private companies selling um, where or pretty much administering the distribution of electricity, right? And this is supposed to be a situation where they own their assets. Right? Government can support them, right? Probably in the beginning period to help them acquire assets. And they will use, of course, different financing instruments to achieve that. But it will be like you have different companies that will probably specialize in different sources of electricity distribution setup, uh, and they will just supply electricity. And if consumer is not happy with the kind of service that he was getting from them, he can just move on to another supplier, and then they will work out if one supplier needed to be paid off or not. So that independence should be there for consumers to be able to do that. But that's not the situation in Nigeria. Of course, that's because there are not enough of those disco companies, and a lot of them have exclusive rights to distribute within a certain area. So we will need to look into their contractual agreement with the government to see what sort of exclusivity they have, or what kind of agreement that they have that will impact ordinary consumer in having the right or the possibility to move on to another supplier if he wasn't happy with his current supplier. So this is the kind of situation where we need to be, but that's not where we are at the moment. Does that answer
Okay.
your question, Philip?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the reason I was asking was because from my sort of assessment of the sector, I think the discos are actually the bottleneck. Even if GENCOs were able to provide as much as the 100,000 megawatts, the real issue is that the discos they don't operate like private companies. They still operate like a government funded company. And I'm saying this from experience. For example, we have an office here in your state, And for the past 3 months or thereabout, we've not had power. We've not had any supply of power to that office. It's a cold. We've got some cold storage infrastructure there, so which makes
I don't know. I can't hear Femi
operating that.
anymore. I don't know if you are still hearing him.
Oh, can you hear me? Hello, can you
Yes,
hear
we
me?
can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay,
Okay, okay. So because I don't feel the discos operate as private companies. For more than 3 months now, our entire street where we have an office has been, without power. Apparently what happened was the transformer was blown up. Basically, it was tampered with by some guys who operate some industrial equipment there. I think they were raising voltage or something. I have no idea what they were doing. Blew up the transformer. It destroyed a number of meters. And since then, no power on that street. Now, my concern was, if this company were a private company that has to generate revenues for it to survive, how could they possibly not generate revenues on an entire street that has industrial users for more than 2 months? And nobody was perturbed, nobody was concerned. And when the community approached them, they said, you know what, you need to go buy a transformer by yourself. They asked us to buy 2 transformers, each one at 6 million naira, apparently inflated, of course, etc., etc. So my concern is it not that structural problem that's actually the issue? Because even with the NBET in the system, the discos still have to pay back the NBET, even if the NBET is coming in with a pile of cash to pay off the GENCOs. The discos still have to pay back the NBET, but in a situation where the discos are actually not businesses, so to say, it kind of suggests to me that that's about the problem. What do you think?
Thank you, Femi. I think you can get away with saying that the operation of um, discos is a problem. But if you're trying to like get to the bottom of what is really the problem, like if you try to like just put everything in a basket and just said, okay, we can now point a finger to it, right? I will say it's all of those 3 arms of government. This is just a typical um, situation where every part of the body is not working. It would eventually come down to the body will probably just break down or will not just function properly. Now, Disco is guilty. I'm sure that, yeah, they will accept that just as charged. For a couple of years, I've been following this one particular man who talks a lot about the situation with Disco's operation in Nigeria. He himself is one of the ogas of Disco. His name is Chief Sunday Oduton. I don't know if any of you guys know him. Right. Now, this guy has said so much things about Disco's operation. He talks about the Disco's operation, right, itself, how it filters and it's not effective in its own daily operation, right? And he also talks about how um, um, GENCO and TRANCO have contributed to the failure of DISCO in being able to manage the distribution of electricity. Now, if we just look at what DISCO is doing, but they are supposed to be the one that provide components like metering, right, all the cabling within premises that is being furnished with electricity supply, and also the connection between the substation and the eventual user. Now, so that means that they have the fundamental role in being able to contract for purchase of meters and also distribute them. Now, if you're buying something from other people, right, you can't complain about not being able to produce it. All you need to do is just contract to buy or purchase those components, bring them over, and distribute them to the people who wanted them. That sounds pretty simple, but they can't achieve that because there are a whole lot of problems, right, that are tied all around it. Well, for them to be able to bring meters to Nigeria, they will need foreign currency. Well, how freely available are those? Or are they like there when they're needed? So you've got those kind of constraints, right? And there are situations where they can't get the right cables, right, that are needed, right? They'll get substandard ones, or something will go wrong with it when they're contracted for it, or something goes really badly wrong when they're supposed to deliver it. So you've got really bad operational problems that are stopping them from being efficient. And then if you put what TRANCO was bringing into the equation, because they've got pretty much the same problem. They have to transmit electricity, so that means that they have to build substations. They have to also have lots and lots of cabling, right? We're talking about lots and lots of aluminum to make those cables, right? Everything has to be imported. Nothing is being made in Nigeria. And then you've got the same basic operational problem that will creep into that. Do they have the financial stability or the support to be able to bring them in when they're needed? How do they deal with repairs? How do they deal with replacements? So you have all these problems, and it's affecting the supply of electricity when they're being generated, right, and fling on to TRANCO. So that means that DISCO cannot find TRANCO to be reliable enough to enable them to plan in advance to be able to supply the necessary electricity that they are contracted to buy from TRANCO. So if they're buying too much, they're selling too little, you've got a problem balancing there. So that's the kind of situation they're in. And then if you look at TRANCO, what kind of problem are they facing with GENCO? Now you've got GENCO that says, yeah, we've got like installed capacity of 13,000 megawatts of electricity. But hold on, we were able to only push on about 4.5. That's a big difference. What happened? Did Snake eat up all those generated power? Now, if you look at what's happening, you will find out that a lot of those installed capacity are not really functional at all. About 50% is not functioning. The other 20%, right, just needed repair that never was carried out. So are we going to be able to bring those lost generated or installed capacity to usage later on? The chance is very slim, because the situation has been like that for so long, and all within that period they've been stealing components when no one is looking, so you don't know what's left. So the point that I'm trying to make is, yeah, Disco's guilty, but so is TRANCO, and so is GENCO, and that's what happened when things are not working, when we don't have the right monitoring and control system that enables efficient operation of of businesses. So that's where we're in. That's why there is a need to really look into all of those operations to see how they can be wound up so they become a lot more efficient, a lot more productive, and they can deliver what they're contracted to do. You know? So do you understand where I'm coming from that explanation for me? That they're all guilty, every single one of them, and they just needed a real good, coordinated, good policies and strategies that will address all of those problems so we can be in a better place. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
I get your point, right? My concern is if they are private companies that are supposed to be sort of, the more energy they sell, the more money they make. Is like I mean, are they not supposed to be driven by profit incentive to go fix this
Yeah,
inefficiency?
they are. They are. Well, not as good as what you will see in other places, but you can't give people what's just not there. If the fundamentals are not available, you will end up breaking your back if you push yourself too much because it's just not there. They don't have the right setup to be efficient, and all of the tools and the resources that they need are probably not there. And then you've got greed playing a part, you know, like you wanted to steal what you don't even have. So there are a whole bunch of things. Yeah, you're right. You know, they're supposed to be driven by result. Like, okay, we've got this right to provide this much electricity to this group of people. Let's go to work. But you see that same thing everywhere in Nigeria. You see them in the local government, in the state parastatals, ministries, federal ministries, NGOs as well. We just, it's that indisciplined attitude to everything. Uh, let's do it this way. Yeah, okay. But we turn around and we do completely different. In a situation like that, it'll be difficult to have a cohesive sense of being an achiever because even lots of good people who are willing to do the right thing, they will get the efforts frustrated. And of course, some of them will just give up and just join them in that indisciplined attitude to things. So that's why we're trying to address all of these things as Qatar Party. I don't know if you've heard of Qatar Party for me.
Oh yeah, I just saw your profile, read a little about it on your profile, yeah, on your bio.
Right. Yeah, thanks. So that's what we're trying to do, Femi. We believe that when you look at all of the problems that we have and you look at where the rest of the world are, there is no way that we can be in a better place from where we are now if we cannot manufacture and produce by ourselves. And of course, industrialize Nigeria to have the right impact economically. Uh, so what Qatar Party is trying to do now is to bring us in a position where we can put the right elements that are needed to make those sorts of public operations become more efficient. So those kind of things that you talked about, those level of expectations are being brought into our daily operation. So we become a lot more efficient. We believe that the real root cause of all of this is just because of our bad economy, which is based on the fact that we import everything. We import, we borrow, we're not building the infrastructure. So those are the foundations. If the foundations are not built, no matter what you put on top of it, will probably fall apart with the test of time. It would not hold. So we believe that if we can industrialize Nigeria, and we're in a position where we're manufacturing and producing things that we need, we don't need to borrow dollars no more. We can build all our infrastructures ourselves. We can build good policies and strategies so that it will help us in building a better nation where everything works and we can create prosperity. And one thing you will see, if you look at the number of industries that are in like civilized countries, and you compare it to the number of industries that we have in Nigeria, you will see there's a big gap. And these are the fuel of an economy. So if you look at what's going on in Nigeria, sometimes it looks like nothing is going on, because not a lot of people are in employment anyways. I mean, almost half of the country is unemployed. You know? So we have a working force that's not put to use. We all just stand around and sit around, and and then we become bandits or Boko Haram or whatever. You know, it's not helping. So that's what we're trying to do. You know, and we thought, okay, we need to explain one thing that's really, really vital to having a better economy, or an industrialized economy, or at least manufacture and produce. And that important thing is provision of adequate electricity. It's vital. So we're trying to explain how we believe that we can produce enough of it that will keep Nigeria lit 24 hours a day, and also support industrialization. So that's what this is about, you know. So we I'm sure you don't hear the government talk about how they're going to solve this problem out, or no people who said, okay, we've got an idea how we're going to do this, despite the fact that this is just really, really important. And so it needs to be addressed. That's what we're trying to do here. So I don't know whether you have any view as to any of our present political parties that are addressing these issues. Do you? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's actually a good it's actually a good differentiator versus other political parties. Uh, so other political parties are more generalist in their sort of ideology. I think your party is it registered already?
No, it's not registered yet. Um, yeah, we're looking for good people to come and join us and fasten things up. So we're working on that.
Okay. So I think it's good. I mean, it's a pretty strong ideology on industrialization, which is a good differentiator. I think even the very new political parties don't have any strong ideology that you can say this is what they really stand for. So it sounds pretty interesting. Do you sort of plan to attract like technocrats who can help to solve the industrialization problem, or how do you sort of plan to attract people?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, we will need people, good people, and technocrats. You know, people who are specialists in different fields. But the actual knowledge that we need in order to be able to manufacture or produce and industrialize, we have that. So we're not like go searching for it, or hoping to recruit people for the specific knowledge that we have. We have that, which, but of course, nothing get built by just a few people. in a country of 200 million people. We're talking about a big operation. So we need plenty of people of that kind of caliber that we're talking about. Technocrats, professionals, specialists, yeah, those kind of people, we need all of them. Yeah, because yeah, that's what it's gonna take to be able to build it. Um,
Mhm.
so
Yeah. The follow-up question I had was, do you intend to sort of use private entities to solve this problem, or do you intend to sort of leverage? I mean, I'm thinking, do you want to leverage the political party to then support some private entities to solve this problem? Or do you want to say, okay, as a political party, our objective is to influence the existing public, well, public, I mean like the existing GENCO, DISCO, CCN infrastructure, to sort of have a kind of change. You see what I mean?
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I fully understand that question, but I suspect you asking if we intend to influence the government, the present government, or political parties to try and influence the operations of those different arms of government that are dealing with electricity supply. Do I understand that correctly, Philip?
Yeah, just to clarify. So,
Yeah, I mean, there is not much that anyone can do really if our party is not in government. We have two strategies. One we're talking about now, the other one we'll talk about later on. Um, but our focus right now is to try and be in the government so we can implement all of those policies and strategies. From where we're standing, we don't see a way that we can influence the operation of the government, their policies or strategies. If you know Nigerian government, they say A, but they do B. These are all Maradonas, they will dribble you, even when you've got your eyes wide open. So they're just very, very difficult to have an agreement with and then expect them that yeah they will do their part of that commitment. We see in every aspect of Nigerian government's dealing. So that makes it really, really difficult because they have their own objectives. They have their own agendas, you know, and it becomes really difficult to change their agendas if the fundamentals of our problems are not addressed. So that's the situation we're in. It would have been nice to like be able to say, okay, hey, my government, I've got this brilliant idea. Yeah, we can do this, we can do that, we can do that. And it says, yeah, okay, I'll sit down, let's hear more. No, but you wouldn't get that with Nigerian government. Yeah. So that's why we need to focus right on trying to be in government so that we can actually influence the Nigerian economy in its totality, and also, of course, impact our world view. mm, So we can make all of these things that we're going to do be like an ongoing concept, something that will drive right into the future, and not something that will happen and then will be dead. The following steps. So we need institutionalization, and that's one of the reasons why we thought, okay, that's the way we need to go, because trying to influence these people from outside would be like trying to move Mount Olympus. It will just bang your head against the wall and
exactly.
nothing out of it.
Mhm. So that was exactly why I was thinking that. I mean, this is a suggestion. I'm just coming across your party and your team. So, which was why I was thinking that. Why don't you think about mini grids in small communities, right? Look at a community that has local government or that has small constituencies where the energy need is so big that you put in energy and everybody loves you, right? And then you just back that up with, oh, by the way, we have a political agenda, and we are willing to go to the Senate for you to go and strengthen this energy system we've provided for you, of course at a fee, right? So looking at mini grids or mini solar solutions or mini wind farm solutions that work in small communities. So rather than look at the possibility of taking power first before implementing the change, but actually using private capital to implement the change, and then use the impact of the fact that people now trust you because you've implemented the change. You're now selling them the energy. Mini grids, of course, no need to pump it into the national grid. It's basically just very simple solutions that work for small communities, and rolling that across multiple communities in a very simple way. So now they have energy, they trust you, you put your candidate, they vote the candidate, you go and then you sort of expand that to other communities, that kind of thing. Have you thought of, so that was what my question around, do you want to approach this from a private sector driven point of view, or are you looking at a political public sector focused kind of solution, which would probably take a long time, would require you to spend a lot of money, you would need to lobby a lot of politicians before you can win an election, even in fact before you can even register a political party now? It's probably going to take some serious effort. Why don't you just do it bottom up rather than top down?
I don't know if it's a right thing to classify it as bottom up, top down. What I see is the fact that um, you see, when you go that way, of course, like I said before, there are two ways you can look at it. If we're gonna go like say, oh, private without the government, right? Then that requires a completely new strategy. And it wouldn't work if you look at it like starting the way you've just described, right, with a mini operation. Nigeria, we're talking about 200 million people. When you do things in those little bitty bits, they don't have no impact at all on a bigger economy like Nigeria. That's where you hear people say, yeah, I saw this happening, I saw that. But we don't hear nothing. It doesn't affect my pocket. I don't feel, things need to be done at proportional correlators, right, with everything. If you want to make the right impact, then you do it in a way, right, that it impacts people. People notice it, Otherwise, people just wouldn't know you're doing anything. Well, the few people who are around you in the community knows, but we're talking about a big country with 200 million, so that needs to be taken into consideration. So it can be done, but it has to be like at the reasonable proportion to the size of the country. Now, I would draw a correlation between what you describe and the kind of things that you see happen. Say, for example, with Dangote, right? He's into everything. Yeah, food and oil and gas, and he wants to be in steel as well. Right now, the man is producing rice but costs of rice and cement are still very high, despite that we've got somebody who's producing it there, a mega producer. Why? Because we're still importing everything that he uses in producing it. Everything he still imports. And that's what you're going to get if we start to say we're going to build mini plants or mini generator. We will still have to import everything because we're not making everything in Nigeria. And what that does is it will increase production cost. And that translates to higher prices. And that translates to inability to afford buying it. You see that with the generators, with the GENCOs now. They sell electricity to people, but people don't want to pay. People will also steal electricity. So everything needs to be balanced up in order to have that right impact in the economy that people will make, that will make people feel like something is happening. So that's why things like that would not work without, because the government has a real big role to play in it. Although it's all going to be private, uh, private focused operations, but the government needs to play a real big role, right, in creating a conducive environment that can allow all of those things, to just roll smoothly, and then we can get the right result. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? For me.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think
let me
Please,
bring it
I
up.
want to say something briefly, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You see, it's been nice listening to you, Brother Femi. You know, I like your submission, and it's quite interesting too. But it's also quite unfortunate that you were not around during our first section, part one, part two, when we discussed about the generation and the money involved and the method we want to employ in generating this megawatt electricity. We know that there is a problem in the transmission and distribution. You see, at first, we want to localize the production, the generation of this electricity. And that is why the issue of manufacturing, like company like Ajakuta, company like Alaja, and also the the aluminium company and all that, we look at how the possibility of bringing those companies to life too, because they directly has impact on why we import so many things. If you talk about solar panel today, you discover that virtually everything about solar panel is being imported, and now we are talking about solving a problem, but we still going to have to, issue of how do we get dollars, to bring those things in and all that. And now the little ones we have, is being prioritized. If you want to get anything from outside the country to Nigeria now, before you can get dollar, you need to. I knew of a friend who want to purchase some equipment, and up to today, the issue is because of how to get dollar to get those equipment to Nigeria. He had paid some tranche and to pay the other tranche of shipping up till today. And now what arrangement is now making is how to, get a friend over there who has dollars and want to bring in some dollar to Nigeria to do one of project, so that they can now say, okay, we settle the money here while you. So we have that issue at hand too. So that is why we are looking at a whole system, explaining this is, if we given opportunity, these are the things that we have to do that will give us, the solution we want. I know we've discussed this. Nigerians are peoples that want to see what is already, what have you done before. We don't always want to try a new system until we see, oh, it's working there. Okay, this is how it is. Before we can now say, okay, let's lay our hand on it and try it, But if we go down route of saying, okay, let's form some little panels and all that, we'll still have to, because we already know the policy, the politics involved in discos and GENCO and TRANCO right now. These are companies that even when they don't supply electricity, they can come and disconnect your light. These are companies that you cite an example where a transformer is faulty, and it is the community that will buy a transformer for replacement, and at the end of the day you are paying for that, for using the same transformer you bought. So we need to look at the structure. That is why we're talking about structure. Many people have tried to, control the system from outside. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. you just have to come in, through being part of the government, that you can actually make a difference. And that's why we at Kata Party, we're looking at, getting more heads, good ones that actually believe in the solution and a good working Nigeria, so that we can move this country forward. So I so much like your submission. We are explaining those, how we can generate, distribute, and transmit, so that we can say, okay, what do most of the parties, just as you said earlier, they just focus on um, the normal circular problem that the country is not working. But if this country is not working, what do we need to do to fix the country? So that is why we look at it that the basic fact is because we are not industrialized. Most of our things, even the people in government, if you look at the way we are taxed, you know, check your bank details. If you are using app to check your bank transaction, you see so many unnecessary deductions. I was a week, I think just a few days ago, I looked at my app. I saw that after reducing my SMS charge, I was also charged for VAT on SMS. So some of those things are because the government we're not producing anything. Even the crude oil that we have today, we have to ship out the crude oil and now import refined oil. So, and at this, those things that are supposed to generate employment for us, we are taking out our employment opportunity outside the country. And then, you see, when we're talking about building railway system, if you're building a railway system, you must make use of steel. And now we also import steel, whereas we have all the ingredients that can manufacture steel in this country. But yet, we just, there's a material you sent to me the other time, Brother Femi, is talking about we have coal, limestone, and all the things that we need to use to manufacture mines, to manufacture steel. From the pig iron. Ajakuta was to supply us with pig iron. Then from there we go to the oxidation furnace to be able to generate to manufacture steel, the liquid steel. Then Alaja also was supposed to make use of the electric arc furnace to get us the steel we want. So by the time those companies are working, we can also generate electricity from the thermal system through those companies too. So this has been explained in our first sections, and we also look at how private, because it cannot be driven by only government, how private sector will be able to, come in and find that the privatization system we have currently, the one that gave birth to DISCO, was not properly done. So as a result of that, you can't expect much from them, because you can't give what you don't have. So that is the current situation you find in our country today. So that is why we look at how we already look at various sectors of the economy, what is our challenges and how we want to solve them. So that is why we say, okay, let's begin to discuss about it and let people hear about the solution that we have, because I know the government are not ready to do anything presently. So thank you so much, and I yield the mic so that we can have more view on that. I just say I should give you a recap of the things we've discussed in the past. All right.
Thank you very much, brother. I mean, great submission. Like you very much. Now, brother Femi, you wanted to make some email. You've got a reply to that.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
It's a bit funny. People are using brother everywhere here. I think you guys can solve it. Just
Hello, I can't hear you. I don't know whether it's my network.
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can hear you
Okay,
now.
okay, great. I think I get the perspective. I kind of understand the perspective of penetrate government. Uh, I'm just trying to understand what's the strategy of that penetration of government. Is it like the party would form alliance with existing parties, or is it like the party would um, try to build its own infrastructure and sort of take power? Then at what level is it I mean, have we done like a proper assessment of how much capital will be required to have that scale of impact really early? And, you know, is that capital available already? I know, these are probably early days, but I'm just trying to bring some practicality to it. And like, what are the timelines? Is this a 2023 plan, or is this a 2027 plan, etc.?
Right. Okay. Now, thank you for me. Um, it's as I said before, um, we're looking at a situation where we are in power, that we win election and we're in power. Right. So if that is the situation, then that means that effectively you have a government that is committed to something that they promised. Now, then that means that that goal is supposed to be achieved, right? And the point that we were trying to make is we're not looking into a situation where the government is working with another political party or other people to finance uh, these industrialization. I mean, with kicking off with uh, revitalizing a Jalkuta steel complex where the steel will be coming from. So it's going to be based on the government implementing an industrialization that's based mainly on private sector financing model. So that means that it's the private sector that will finance all of these things, using our financing strategies. Right. That's how it's going to happen. Of course, the federal government would have its own role to play in all of these. And that's part of what we're going to explain tonight. The government has a role to ensure that all of these projects are effectively implemented. So this main source is going to be private sector. But how do we do it? So that's what I believe that you also asking about, that where's the money going to come from and things like that. Am I correct to make that as?
Yeah, so I'm asking an even earlier problem, right? I think that the issue of if you have power, you can do whatever. I mean, that is easy, right? I used to work in the driver. I used to work with Itachi, actually, in Italy and Saudi Arabia, in the driverless train sector. And I had quite some decent interfaces with energy companies. There's a company in Italy called Ansaldo Energia, was a sister company of my company. I also used to work for a defense company in Italy called Finmeccanica. It's now called Leonardo SPA. So I know, from a technical and sort of financing point of view, there are so many solutions. I also worked a little bit for a project financing company, worked with some people on energy projects, sort of like the modeling of energy projects and the structuring, seeking investors for energy projects, that kind of thing. So I did a bit of, so I know that this is possible after you've won power, right? I also know that, for example, all the money Nigeria is going to take from China is really unnecessary because you could get private capital to finance this without necessarily getting sovereign money or any kind of money from large countries, anyways. But what I'm saying is a more original or is a more fundamental problem, which is before you can even take that power, right? Before you get the power, and I assume you're talking of the federal level for you to be able to implement the kind of scale that affects 200 million people. So before you can get to take that power, it requires a lot of resources. It requires a lot of lobbying. It requires a lot of participation at the political level. And given how the system is currently structured, which I know you're already very familiar with, it's no child's play at all. It's you either have a ton of cash to spend, because for you to win federal elections, you need representatives in about 774 local governments. Each of those local governments has wards. You need presence in different states. And even if you're going to say, oh, I'm not going to prioritize all the states, you need presence in a decent number of states. I think maybe it's 2/3 of the states or something, whatever the arrangement is. In addition, you also need to have boots on the ground who are basically getting stuff done. So I'm just wondering that, and that was why I was talking about either approaching this as a bottom up or as a top down. I'm just wondering how much of resources and of organizing already exists today, and what are the timelines so like, okay, if the target date is 2023, I think it's already too late. If it's 2027, maybe, depending on how much sort of structure can be built between now and then, and depending on how much of support, maybe there's already a large group, maybe a group of 100 who are going to be the backbone of the party, and then you have to now onboard other people who put in their widow's mite to ensure that the dream can be carried out. Otherwise, then you need a stash of cash. And a stash of cash means that you're essentially going to have a set of money bags who, either for philanthropic or non-philanthropic reasons, they want to, effect some kind of change. So I'm just asking more of the original, the question on the original problem, which is what's available now. If the approach is a political solution, what's available now to ensure you can get the office? And I'm not even talking about using the money to bribe voters or anything. I'm just saying mobilization, getting people involved. Like, that's huge, gigantic scale of work that has to be done. What's available right now? Well, of course, I'm not asking how much money do you guys have. I'm just really saying that, do you realistically think that that is possible, especially at scale, rather than in small chunks? So, for example, if you wanted to take over a state like Oyo State, you only have 33 local governments, and you basically need, I don't know, maybe 300,000 votes out of a population of about 6 million, and you're good. If you want to win Lagos, I think it's 20 local governments or thereabouts, and total population of Lagos, I think maybe above 10 million. So maybe you need about, I don't know, 1.5 million votes or 2 million votes to win. So that's really what I'm trying to ask, to say that, but if you want to win Nigeria, then you're looking at minimum of 15 million, 17 million votes, at least based on the last elections. So that's really what I'm talking about, which is, I can understand the desire to tackle the problem at scale, but the practicality of not stretching yourself too thin while you're trying to tackle a problem that you could very, very easily solve by eating the elephant in bits. And ultimately, you can consume the entire elephant if, for example, I mean, all across Nigeria, almost every state, every local government has an electricity problem, right? So any local government or any state you jump into and you're able to solve the electricity problem, you become instantly popular. You become their messiah, because this is a pressing problem. Everybody is interested in this problem. In fact, everybody is totally sold out to whoever can solve this problem. So and which I see as a very unique selling point for a political party, because it's coming in from a problems to solution kind of perspective, which is, I'm going to take just this singular problem. I believe if I'm able to solve this singular problem, I can solve for industrialization. And there is also that technical aspect of saying that, do you want to reinvent all of the wheel? Because, for example, let's take, for example, you want to build a solar panel factory, right? I guess you need the solar panel components, whatever those are. You need the battery components, you need the charge controller components, you need the cabling components, you need all of that. Well, let's assume Coleman or whoever it is already manufacturing the cables, but you still have to get the solar panels, you still have to get the batteries. And I'm not even sure we have a company that does batteries. We used to have Excite batteries in those days, no longer. So that's really where I'm coming from, to say that, isn't it a quicker approach to just try to solve this problem? Just focus on, okay, we have an energy problem. We don't really care from where we get the components, just to solve this energy problem, at least for a few communities. And then you use the fact that you now have the energy to now start, whether it's steel production or whether it's production of solar panels, etc. You can then start solving that from there, rather than, oh, I'm going to solve it from the beginning already, and I'm going to ignore all of the technology that already exists, all of the progress people have made in manufacturing solar panels, and I'm going to start building my own solar panels. And then when you start building your own solar panels, then you then start, why don't you just leverage on the wheel that's been built already, build your car with the, whether it's imported infrastructure or not, build that car, and then you can now provide transportation service, right, to people who would build other cars. So those are two sides of the problem I'm looking at, which is the political solution. Wouldn't you rather solve it from a smaller point of view? And then the technical solution itself, wouldn't you rather just avoid reinventing the wheel from scratch, use the wheel that has already been invented, and then build your car, and then use that car as a source of service to then be able to build other cars, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, thank you very much, Yemi. Um, I think the question is, yeah, it's clear now that you are focusing on, okay, firstly, how to win the election. Basically, how do you want to win the election? That's what you're asking there. And then you started talking about, okay, wouldn't it rather be easier to use existing, yeah, technology, or set up underground, as opposed to trying to build everything from the ground? Now, in the first place, winning the election, well, just as we believe that the fundamental reason why we're here, why we're in this pathetic state, right, that the main reason is economical, it's the same reason that we believe that we can win the election, right, by taking the message to the people that our problem is economical, right, articulated so they can see the difference between when you implement an industrialization regime where there is millions of jobs that will be created, real sustainable jobs that will be created, as opposed to all of the broken promises, all of the empty promises that our past leaders and politicians have fed us with. So the message is just letting people understand straight away. This is about jobs. When we have jobs, well, we'll live a better life. It will solve a lot of other problems that's built all around the fact that there is not enough jobs, and that's really pretty much just messed up. The whole country. So it's about message of jobs, 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 jobs. And when we coupled that with our other strategies and policies that will ensure that we have prosperity and we have peace, people will understand that message. Well, as to whether they believe it and vote for it, of course, you can argue differently. But that's our perspective, that we want to take the message to people. And as difficult as it may seem now, which I understand, elections are very, very almost impossible to win in Nigeria if you're not part of the APC PDP. But the society know about those two parties, and they know about all the parties as well that have been in power before or have been kind of in the realm of power. The fact still remains, none of them has been able to solve our problem. Nigerians are saying now that it's all been promises that are not made true. So they are beginning to understand that they need to ask certain questions that will let them understand whether APC or PDP or whoever the presidential candidates or whoever the gubernatorial candidates or the House of Assembly candidates are going to be, that will start asking the right questions. So we're banking on the fact that we've got a real good message here. We will take it to the people, right? And it's not going to be about, we're going to be like, you need millions for that. The present situation in the country, right, is a good enough force that could create change in the nearest future. Up to this moment that we're talking about, if you look at all of the big parties that we're talking about, APC, PDP, they're all not settled. The messages are not going around. The country is in a proper mess. And I don't see, unless you see it differently, a lot of Nigerians don't believe that things can get better tomorrow. If any one of those government, any of those people will come into power again, they've tested almost all of the varieties of meat that they have on the a la carte. And they know that they don't taste good. They're looking for real change. And if we can bring our message to them, make them understand, we can push it with good people here and there who can help to reinforce it. People need to change. And when we've got a message like industrialization, the ability to be able to manufacture and produce, there is no other better message than that. There isn't. So that message is what we believe will enable us to win election. A message of hope, real hope. So that's about how we look at that. But then if we then step forward and said, okay, why is it that we don't just take advantage of the setup that's underground at the moment? Like maybe, you said political solution. I don't really understand how that will work. But if we're talking about technical solution, right, because political solution, like I explained to you the other time, as long as we're not in a position where we can utilize those natural resources that we have ourselves, where we can explore them, extract them, turn them into raw materials and into finished products, we will need to import everything. So if you, whether you're going to do it in a small local government or in a ward or in the state or right through the country, that fundamental fact stays. You will have to import everything, and they're expensive. You mentioned something about there in Oyo State that they're asking for 6 million for 2 transformers. Yeah, how much would that cost if we were able to produce, well, all of the components that make the transformer in Nigeria? All of the important components of that transformer entity, we have them. So if we can make them ourselves, that would be the game changer regarding production costs, regarding being competitive in the world, which of course will aid exports big time. For me, there is nothing underground at this moment in this country, unless you can show me, because I don't see no company that explore our natural resources. I don't see one that extract it. They're all done by the Chinese, the Americans, the Germans. I don't see no one processing anything, really. We get them out of the ground, we export them straight away. And that's what they're going to be doing with steel as well. So I don't see nobody converting them from raw materials to finished products. It's not happening. There's nothing underground. They only import semi-finished goods and then they assemble them. That's the only thing you'll find anyway. That includes, well, utilizing copper wires, with just basic technical things about making rotors, where it's all about winding using magnets to come in to make engine motors. We're not doing nothing at this moment. But if you know, please tell me. So that's why it's vital that we start from the bottom, right, by being able to explore our natural resources, then have the machines, right, the tools, the equipment that we can use to extract them, then have the knowledge, the ability, and the capability to turn them into raw materials and then into finished products. And when we can do that, then it becomes real, something better than just trying to use what's not really there at this moment. So, yeah, like I said, this is how we see it. Unless you think, okay, there are things there already that we can make use of, then please let us know. So you're flashing.
Yeah, so I'm coming into this from two perspectives. So just to address your question or your point regarding the strength of the message about jobs, the point is really that it's not the first time people would talk about that. There have been quite a number of politicians who have talked about jobs. So it's
Well,
not.
from manufacturing, producing, and
Yeah,
industrialization point of
let
view,
me
or from just look at that.
let me land. So it's not the first time people are talking about jobs, and it's not the first time people are even talking about high-tech jobs. It's not the first time people are talking about manufacturing jobs. So it's a good sell, and don't get me wrong, right?
Wait a minute for me. Wait a minute. When I finished my submission, I said, if you know, tell me. So if you're saying
Yeah,
it's not the
I'm
first
coming in.
time, well, if you're saying
Yeah,
it's
I'm
not the
coming.
first time, I'm saying, okay, what are they saying? Is that from an angle
Yeah,
of them saying that they can manufacture and
let me
produce
get to
and industrialize, or is it from a point of, from an angle of them, they're just saying it, but they can't do it? So I would like
yeah,
to
let me get
differentiate between that. Yeah?
let me land, right? So I'm starting from the point of saying that um it's not the first time that kind of message is being shown, right? Or is being spread across the voting population. The real challenge is actually the fact that it's not the first time. Regardless of whether you can do it or not, they really don't care. The message for them is not new. I'm not sure whether you've sold something in Nigeria before, whether it's an idea or a product. As long as you have people who are in doubt about your ability to actually deliver on that, the first problem you really need to solve is to actually show that you can actually do it. So, not telling them, but showing them, guys, look here, I've done it already. And it's not, oh, I've done it as an employee somewhere in the US or in the UK. No, I've done it here in Nigeria. It works here. Go and ask them there. So that was why I started my my sort of contribution by saying, have you looked at the possibility of a private sector bottom-up driven solution? Because almost every politician in Nigeria will talk about jobs. Almost all of them will talk about energy. Almost all of them will talk about industrialization. They are not new concepts, right? They're not in any way new. And I've not even started addressing the technical issues. And I'll go into the technical plus economics related issues later. But I'm
Okay,
just
so
talking about.
Femi, hold on. I understand what you're saying, but I would still like you to help me address what I said about if you're saying that those claims are not new in Nigeria, right,
Yeah.
before, and I'm
Mhm.
saying to you, okay, who are the people saying it? Or are these people saying it because they can actually do it, or because they're just lying to people? And if they're lying to people, right, don't you think that after so many lies, that people are now saying you can't do it, you've been lying to us? So they know
Okay,
now
so the
that there
question,
is lies and there is a fact when somebody is telling the fact. So when you
so
say
the
that
question,
people will not
the
wait, let
question
me
is,
talk. Wait, let me talk.
mhm, mhm,
Let me talk. So if you're saying that okay, these people, they only see that okay, people say to them every day, so they believe it. Right
mhm.
now, where we are now in this country, do you think that people believe that our leaders can give us electricity when they've lied for so many years about electricity, about building the right infrastructure? Right, it's happened for so long, but it's still not happening. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you saying that these are not something new, right? Help me clarify it. From which point of view are you saying that people believe? Is it from a point of view that they believe that it can be done and it's been done? Or they said it can be done, but they've just been lying all about it? That's what I'm trying to ask you to help clarify, because you make that statement. So I'm just
Yeah,
trying to clarify it for us. Do you get?
yeah, yeah. So let me clarify it.
Sorry, for Femi, just hold on a bit before you continue. Let me quickly reset the room. Isaiah, you are welcome. This is a
Yeah.
solution for Nigerian room. Yeah, we discuss issues that will bring about solution to Nigerian problem. So,
Mhm.
and we've started with electricity problem. So we're trying to explain how we can achieve that in 4 years. So this is we have a party intended to be registered as soon as possible. We call it Keta Party. So we're
Okay.
also, sharing the idea of, making Nigeria our own work. So Femi, you can continue, please. So Isaiah, you're welcome. When Femi is true, you can contribute to whatever.
Okay, thank you very much. Mhm. Yeah. So, just to clarify, right? The perspective from which I'm saying what I'm saying is the perspective of the fact that just the same way, right? They believe every politician has come to lie to them. They will believe that you have also come to lie to them. That is the fact. Except you can show them that, guys, I have a differentiator. What I'm saying is fact because I've done it here. But until such a point at which you can show them that you've actually done it, they will believe you are just another politician, especially when you have a so-called foreign accent. They will believe, and this is just the fact, that you've also just come to lie to them. They would believe that you've been financed by one of those big wigs. They would believe that it's just the same story, because last term they heard about jobs, they heard about electricity, they heard about industrialization, they heard about Ajaokuta steel rolling mills coming into power. I think Buhari talked about all of this, right? I'm sure Yemi can definitely remember that.
Yeah.
Buhari talked
Buhari
about,
talked about
you
it.
know, Ajaokuta. They talked about a lot of the refineries will start working. We're not going to be buying stuff from outside. They talked about all of this. But the only thing that would differentiate you from them is, I've done it. And I'm saying this from experience. I have an uncle who was in the Senate. Well, not an uncle, but pretty much an uncle, you know, typical Yoruba, when you're from the same sort of locality and your parents or families are pretty close. Uh, if I mention his name, you would know him if you're familiar with your state politics, who used to be in the Senate and is now very close to the governor. And one of the things he did to get into power was that rather than most people who would go into the cities to start building stuff in the cities, he was building like boreholes on his own private money, right? He was building boreholes. He was setting up filling stations. Is quite popular. So in fact, when I've mentioned filling stations, it's super easy to figure who the senator was. Was setting up infrastructure, doing some little empowerment programs in schools, distributing exercise books, etc. Not hugely significant stuff, right? The one for water was quite significant because those were boreholes. Each borehole was pretty expensive, maybe about 400,000, 500,000 naira. And he built quite a number of them in the communities. So when he went to the campaign and he was talking about, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and people asked him, what have you done before? In fact, many people did not ask what he had done before because they had heard about the things he had done already. So that's the perspective I'm coming into this from. I'm not saying that those politicians have done it. The point is the de facto assumption by any Nigerian you go to talk to about politics today is that they're going to believe you're just one of the other talkers. So, but your core differentiator would be, guys, I'm talking about energy. I've done energy in this local government. And it doesn't have to be more than one. Super cheap projects, maybe 5 million naira. In fact, probably even less, because majority of those communities don't need anything more than just light bulbs and charging points for their small mobile phones and some TV sets. They don't have refrigerators, etc. So super cheap projects, 5 million naira, 6 million naira. With this already, you already have a footprint. It could just be a simple solar solution. And I know people who are doing this kind of sort of mini grid solutions that will just connect maybe 10 houses in the community, connect the Oba's Palace or the Bale's Palace with a few houses of the chiefs, etc., to electricity. And they actually get to win support by this, because when people then start asking the validation question, they just basically point to what they've done regarding validation. So that's really what I was coming from the political side. From the more technical side, and I wanted to talk about the economics, the comparative advantage. I remember I shared an article with Yemi earlier. It was about the Ajaokuta steel rolling mills. The reason the rolling mills doesn't work is actually a technical problem. It's not necessarily a political will problem. Yes, there might be political will issues, but there is an 85% technical problem. So the article I sent to him, and I think Yemi can share it with Richard as soon as you can. That article actually talks about the fact that the steel rolling mills needs 3 ingredients. The iron ore, it needs the limestone, and it also needs the coal, the coke bearing or the coke producing coal. Now, the issue is that the coal we have in Nigeria is mostly not coke producing. I think the one that is coke producing is probably not even available in the country. So when you burn the coal, you're probably not going to get coke, and it's coke you need for you to be able to produce the steel. So which probably means they have to probably import the coke or the coal that can bear the coke or that can produce the coke. So that's one. Two is that the iron ore in Nigeria, some of it has phosphorus or phosphate impurities. And these phosphate impurities, if they use that iron ore to produce the steel, it will be brittle because the phosphates essentially would crack. So that is not usable. The one that is usable, well, by the way, that first one that has phosphate impurities also has low iron content. So which means it's also problematic. Now, the iron ore that is usable, I think they said that one is in Itakpe or something. I don't have all the facts. The one that is usable actually has very low iron ore content as well. So they have to do the process they call beneficiation or something like that, which ensures that they basically concentrate the iron that comes from the iron ore, and therefore it's sufficient for use. And then, of course, we have limestone. Now, in addition, for them to be able to channel the iron ore from where it is available to the steel rolling mills, they need to use some rail line. Well, rail line is easy to fix. Hopefully, if you can get the energy to work, and I think they've been working on that in the Buhari government for a while. I'm not sure whether they've done it because the article I read is pretty late. But I know that Rotimi Amechi used to mention the line from Itakpe to Ajaokuta, so most likely they've done it. So let's assume that is done. Now, there are also other issues around the fact that while the steel rolling mill itself has been built, the blast furnace, which is the core conversion chamber through which the iron ore, limestone, and the coal gets converted into steel, into liquid steel, that has not been built. So that has to be built, right? And then I think there's a company called Noicom or something like that that has to work on this iron ore beneficiation project, and that company is currently moribund, right? So there's quite a lot of problems to even solve on the steel manufacturing side. And some of those problems are actually because of a resource constraint. If the iron ore you have does not have high enough content of iron, it means that your production efficiency is going to be low. And one of the things you're going to see, which is why I'm talking about comparative advantage, is that you might actually be better off buying off the billets, which I think that was what the initial Russian contractors who were in charge of the Jakarta were doing. They were just buying the sort of the prepared steel and just putting it in the rolling mill and converting it into steel rolls. And this was actually probably more profitable for them than for them to be manufacturing it locally, because if they were manufacturing it locally, because the iron ore itself was actually low in iron content, you were essentially producing inefficiently. So that brings me to the issue of comparative advantage, which is the fundamental assumption of the party that you can manufacture everything is not founded in science. It has no basis. It's not correct, right? That's really where the foundation of where I'm going to is. There is no country in the world that manufactures everything it consumes. None. Zero. And I'm talking about this from the perspective of somebody who has lived in almost every continent of the world. There is no country in the world except maybe North Korea, and they don't actually use a lot anyways. It's only North Korea that pretends that it produces everything it consumes, even though it still imports from China. So no country in the world produces everything it uses. And you're actually, from a manufacturing point of view and from an engineering point of view, you're actually better off, right, buying some things and then adding value to it. So, for example, that's why you wouldn't see Switzerland produce cocoa. That's why you'd see them come and import cocoa from Africa and then take it to Switzerland and then produce their chocolates, because they do not have a comparative advantage in cocoa production. So they rely on African countries, Ivory Coast, Ghana, etc., who produce cocoa, some Nigeria as well. And then they buy off that cocoa and then they produce their chocolates. So that fundamental assumption that you can produce everything either efficiently or non-efficient or inefficiently is actually not correct. It's not based in science. You can't. Even if you want to, you're essentially going to shoot yourself in the foot, because if you don't have, for example, comparative advantage, some of that has to do with location, some of that has to do with technology. So let me give you an example. One of the best companies that produces aircraft is like Boeing, right? The Boeing.
Randolph, yeah?
Yeah, I will. It's like Boeing, right? When Boeing wanted to produce the Boeing 787, so I visited the factory where they produce the Boeing 787, the place in Italy. When they wanted to produce that, they discovered, because it's is it 787 or 777? I can't remember. It's the one they call the Dreamliner, and it's built with composite, so it's not built with steel. Even though it has some steel frames, but the core is not steel, it's composite material. They figured that they do not have comparative advantage in producing all the parts. So what they did was to split the project. So the company I visited in Italy produces the fuselage. Another company produces the avionics. Another company produces the wings. Another company produces the onboard electronics, etc., etc., right? They split everything and then they would assemble them in a particular location. Where I'm going with that is the story of comparative advantage is actually super important, because you're not going to be super efficient with everything. And because of that, from an engineering point of view, the project itself is going to be super delayed. So meaning, if you want to build a transformer, you have to learn how to build all the components of the transformer. But this technology has already been solved somewhere else. So some people already know how to manufacture it. So even if you have the guys who were working in those places where they were manufacturing them as Nigerians who are willing to come and work with you, which might not work because they don't want to come to live in a developing country, even if you are able to achieve that, the problem you're going to have is that you then need to build all the manufacturing tools again from scratch. And these are tools that already exist. So I'm just really coming to this table to say, wait a minute, guys, maybe you need to rethink your strategy, because both from a political point of view, but also from a technical point of view, there might be huge challenges. So that's really where my comment.
All right, thank you for
All
your
right.
submission.
Oh, yeah, man. Okay, you've got
Okay.
a comment, yeah, man.
Yeah, thank you for your submission. It's a very beautiful observation you've made. But I'll try to tell you that some of the story we hear about Ajakuta are not actually the truth. You see, I study metallurgical and material engineering, and I did my, I think, 4 month IT in Ajakuta, and I also do some program in Itakwe, so that is NIOMCO, National Iron Ore Mining Company in Itakwe. So there are initially when the company started, when the first feasibility study and the contracts awarding for the
Sorry, yeah, man. Can you come a little closer to the phone so
okay,
we can hear you?
all right. Uh, I don't know. Okay, I'm trying to say that the story we heard about Ajakuta is not actually true, because when I've served in, I've worked in Ajakuta, I've also in Itakwe. There's a national iron ore mining company in Itakwe, Niamco. So that is where the beneficiation is taking place, and the ore deposit is also there. You see, initially we have because at the first when Ajakuta was built, the technology of steel making has not yet evolved to the capacity it is now. So there were so many challenges on what to do. Actually, I know that we don't have cookable coal in Nigeria. The coal we have is not cookable. Yes. And then there were a couple of things that was imported. But political, when they say political will, there was this system of government we talk about, backward strategy, where you backward integration, they call it. So when Ajakuta was on, if only we allow them to have built the complete the blast furnace section with the coal, with the coke making, the coke battery and all that, will have, even if the other side, which is what you have said, that we can just simply import billet. Yes, if you are importing billet, it means we are not making use of our natural resources, because we already have iron ore. Even right now, there are different locations in Nigeria that there is iron ore. Even Enugu, there is a place in Insuka where we call Leja. It has iron ore deposit presently. There are so many other places that iron ore have been discovered. But it's just that because of our inability to utilize, there are so many research on more better way to produce steel than what we have those days. So I just that the technology of Ajakuta is more environmental friendly than any other technology, and less cost effective, and more, it generate more employment than other means. So those are the reasons why you see people still talk about Ajakuta today. Then if the issue around that the ore we have, actually the first grade discover was low grade and sulfur and all that. That is why the beneficiation, that is what the whole major reason why Itakpe was set up, to beneficiate the ore. And also Ajakuta was not just to produce, is not to produce steel directly, was also to produce pig iron that also service a larger steel company, and some other company that can come up, because you need pig iron before you can produce steel. Steel itself can production start from pig iron. That's that about that. So let me give Isaiah opportunity to comment so that we can continue the discussion. Isaiah, are you there?
Yeah. So I've been listening to the discussion so far, and I listened to Sir Richard's should I say statement or notice, and I also liked Femi's response due to Femi being the realist in this situation. First of all, you were talking about jobs, and as a Nigerian youth, I was here 4 years ago. So I even use the word 8 years ago because I've been interested in politics since a very long time. I'm not too old, but I know before I became ready for franchise, franchising. I've forgotten the word, but I remember before I became eligible to vote, I have always been interested in politics, all the way from Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's tenure to Mohammed Buhari's tenure. I was aware of Obasanjo's tenure also. So coming back here, I watched Goodluck Jonathan's manifesto. I remember very clearly what he promised, and I remember following his administration to the letter, especially when should I just say he was one of the largest encouraging factor to corruption. yes, he did a lot. I'm not going to deny his influence in the agricultural sector. But when it comes to letting officials go based on punishment and actions, Goodluck was one of the major facilitators of this, because where he was meant to use an iron fist, he didn't. And the practice has continued since then into barrister now. I mean, we practically just have the same set of people there, a reshuffling. So when it tells you that you come in and telling us, like the youth, the populace, that they're going to be providing jobs to us, everybody will just look at you like, okay, how? If you don't have a how or why, then what's the point of voting for you? And I like the fact he stated it. Then my own suggestion to the entire scenario of the situation is you creating a platform where you can invest in already existing business belonging to the average people in Nigeria, where you can start solving the problem before you even get there. It doesn't have to be massive, like I said. It could be 5 million naira project, it could be less, it could be more. But the idea is you've done something, and that's before you got there. Because we've practically been on these promises for over 12 years now, and none of them is being fulfilled. So, how do you get the attention of people? You do these things, you get publicity for it, and you come before people. You don't necessarily, I'm telling you, the way I see Nigeria now, it's not about who is giving them money any longer. It's about who can solve the problem, because everybody is realizing this problem belongs to all of us. The problem of the north has now become the middle belt, and it's gradually becoming the problem of the southwest and southeast. So, how do you solve this problem? If you are talking about the industrial aspect, when you've been stating providing for jobs, you should have some of your party members or some of your affiliates already doing stuff like that. Innovative partnerships, innovative investments. You don't necessarily have to tell the public it's an investment that gets you back money, but publicity that grants the party that image of encouraging the current generation and those who are already effective. Then in the political aspects, I would suggest bringing in or investing. Again, its core comes down to the fact that you won't see the results immediately, according to my personal opinion or personal view. You won't see the results immediately. It's going to be dragged on. You invest in young talents where you can guide them and leverage in certain local governments or certain regions. For instance, we all know, I believe Anambra belongs to ABGA currently. They've won majority of the votes there, and that's because of the system that they've been using over there for the past few years. So that to me is the only suggestion I can give, because Femi was being realistic about it. As an average Nigerian, promising jobs and this and that, even though we know that the existing powers have been doing practically the same thing, that doesn't mean we'll vote for you. What do you have to show? What do you have to give us as an assurance that, oh, things are going to be different this time around? We do not want the same set of people making the same decisions for us. So that, to me, my advice would be finding a way to dominate certain areas. I don't know how wealthy you are, or I don't know what resource you have, but if I'm to be sincere, I would advise you to focus on certain regions in the country. Goodluck Ebele got to the other people through the fact that everybody thought of him as the average Nigerian man who understood our plight. But when he got there, I would use the word he was surrounded by existing elites, surrounded by people with certain influence than he has, surrounded by people with quite different interests. Like I said, he did his own part, but when it comes to using the iron fist, he lacked that, and he gave them more courage to continue the corruption. So, just finalizing everything I'm going to say, I would advise you invest in existing businesses. I advise you invest in young talent, and I advise your team to be experts in certain fields. Everybody knows that there needs to be a change in the system, but how would you change the system when those who control the system are still the same set of people? It has to be gradual, it doesn't have to be immediate. For instance, Kwara State, I've visited that place a lot. I come from Osun State. Osun State is, should I say, a large expanse of land. They practically know nothing to do about it. Like they don't know what they are doing with the amount of land. Where you could invest in agricultural businesses, or you can invest in the local market women. You just have to call the Yaloja. Things like that. Innovation, including the youth. It's gradual. And when you do stuff like that, the publicity that comes with, it's the group of, it's the Keta group. What's the name? I believe it's Keta, Keta group that did that.
Keta.
Yeah, Keta. It's the Keta group that did that. That gets you publicity. It doesn't have to be too massive. It's gradual. To decide on a local government area. Change to me doesn't have to be immediate. If it's immediate, you probably have to use violence or force. If you really want change to be immediate, it requires violence or force. That's one of the rules of power. There are some habits, or should I say practices, that is ingrained in the average Nigerian citizen. You have to also put that into consideration. So, just saying it from my own point of view, I'm not an expert, 100% expert. I'm saying it from the point of view of the Nigerian who has been watching the political sphere for over 12 years now. And that's before I even got the right to vote. So that's my piece, and I just wanted to state it out there. You should also face the realistic part of it.
Thank you, Isaiah. Even though I appreciate your submission, unfortunately, your microphone wasn't that clear enough for me to be able to follow everything that you said. But I could hear quite a few things that you talked about. I appreciate it. Now, Femi, thank you for your earlier submission. You talked a lot, covering again the political solution that you thought might be applicable, and also the technical solution that you thought needs to be reconsidered from your point of view. Now, if I quickly address the political solution that you talked about, you are looking at a situation where we will do empowering projects to lure people to buy, our plans, our message, our offer to Nigeria. You reckon by doing empowerment programs that will make people believe that, okay, the things that we're talking about are doable, and most especially because they saw me do one, put a transformer there or something like that, and that will help in letting them believe that this is real. You also talked about my accent being not a typical Nigerian accent, and that could give them an indication that maybe I'm just some kind of politicians phase be used to lie to Nigerians and deceive them about what we're actually capable of. That they wouldn't believe that. Those are the two things I was able to really capture in your political reevaluation of our strategy. Now, what I would say for me is, I appreciate what you said, and ordinarily, it's easy to look at things that way because that's the way we've always done things. That's part of us. A situation where we'll expect somebody to do something, right, that will be beneficial to us before we can incline to actually give it a thorough, a holistic, a true assessment and to evaluate whether this is something that we can buy into or not. That's a typical Nigerian attitude, if I may say that. I'm not being rude, but I'm sure you know that. That's what a lot of Nigerians expect. And that's the reason why Nigeria's never worked. Because we have people with that frame of mind, with that world view, that the only thing they can see is something that's beneficial to them directly, not something that will benefit the whole society. And not until we start looking a little bit further to see that, okay, we're not just talking about a few of us, we're talking about a whole lot of us, because it's a big country. And it's not only few people that are suffering, or it's not only few people that need to benefit from a country that prosper. No, it's supposed to be for all of us. And if we look at what's been happening in Nigeria, if we look at our past politicians and leaders, especially those who have actually led us, right, like say Buhari himself, or Jonathan, or Obasanjo, or Yar'Adua, these are people who have been our leaders before. How many of them do you know buy transformers, right, to local to the local or suburb or states or whatever? No, they don't do that. These people, they come and they sell their lies to people, and people eat it, they buy it, and then when they got there, they disappoint people. That's what they do over and over again. You know that. So when you are in a situation where people, where you will see that it's only politicians who are eager, right, to probably come and siphon money, that are really willing most of the time, right, to do empowerment projects. They will build a little something there, and then people will worship them for a really little while, and then if they click their fingers, everybody will run. But do they actually believe that these people who are doing those programs really, when they are voted or elected into power, are really benefiting their local government or their states, or or if they're lawmakers or whatever? No, I don't think people believe that. They appreciate, the gesture, buying something for the local government, but does that really build it hard to believe that these people, they are technocrats or people with real knowledge who will give that society something that's continuous in nature, something that just doesn't disappear the following morning or following month or whatever, something that's institutionalized into the society that ensure continuity? No, they don't, because that's just basic requirement that they expect politicians or people who are aspiring to leaders to come and do. They tax you because that's their expectation. Come and put something down before you can even try to say you want to lead us. So if we keep on doing the same thing over and over again, so we'd expect a different result. We talked about this all the time. We need to come from a different angle, an angle that portray ingenuity, authenticity, real. That look, this is what we're talking about. This is not about trying to lie to you. This is not about trying to deceive you. This is the knowledge that we're talking about, and we articulate it so that people can ask us questions. Why is this? Why that? Why is that? I'll give you an example. On Twitter, where you have, well, the first president who's aspiring to be our leader at this moment, right, that's well documented and well known, right, is Kingsley Moghalu. Now, on Twitter, we've been having exchanges where I'm trying to let him understand you cannot lie to people, you cannot give them fake, broken, unreal promises, right? About how I will do this, how I will do that. No. So when he says he's going to do this, I said, please explain in details so that people can ask you questions. How exactly are you going to do it? This is how we're going to teach ourselves how to ask the right questions so we can get to the bottom of real promises, things that we can actually do as opposed to just talk about it. So if we can take that forward and we can let people know that, look, ask me questions. And if you're still not sure, go get somebody who knows how to do it to come and ask me questions about how to exactly do it. This is how knowledge are tested. Not by me buying a little transformer somewhere just to show them, because that transformer I still have to import it. It's made by somebody else. But I'm talking to you about, we are going to teach you how to make transformers and how to make the things that transformers are made from. These are real knowledge. And these are the things that I expect us to talk about. That, okay, how exactly? But the how is what we've been talking about for the last 3 sessions of this same thing. How to provide 100,000 megawatts of electricity. Like I said, we've dived into almost everything, right from the how to make the things that will let us make electricity, the basic elements that are needed, like the steel and all the components, right? How we put it all together, right? Including like how they will be distributed to city, regarding transportation of those components, right? And we looked at every aspect of sources of generating electricity. We looked at the costs, everything we've looked at. But you missed all of that. So what you did now is you brought us all the way back, and you are telling a story about what this is, what that is. But unfortunately, we've talked about all of those things. They are recorded, so you can still go and watch them. So you do take us back a little bit. I don't mind. I'm willing to explain everything over and over again, just so that people can understand what we're talking about. So all of those things that you talked about when you started talking about technical aspects, we have dealt with all of this before. And if you had been here, all of those sessions, you would have understood where we're coming from. A lot of things would have been a lot clearer for you. So I go back to the political evaluation again. Now, so I hope it's clear to you now where I'm coming from regarding using empowerment projects like buying this or buying that, or showing that.
Can I respond? Can I
So
respond? Can I respond?
let me finish, then you can respond to what I said. Yeah. So that's that's my response to letting you understand that this is about knowledge, where people can, where you present what you can do, right? And when people ask questions, they ask
Do you
questions,
think?
and
No, no.
that's
I think I need to respond now. Do you think you're the only person who knows about those things? Do you truly think you're the only one who knows about how to generate electricity, how to distribute electricity? Do you think this is new?
Well, if you know about it, or you know anyone who knows,
I'm not the
please
only
tell
one
me.
who knows about this, right? Almost every person who studied electrical engineering in Nigeria knows about what you've said. There's nothing new about what you've said at all.
Okay, so Femi, do you know how to manufacture?
Look,
Huh?
I told you my
Do you
background,
know
right?
how
I
to
think I told you my
manufacture?
background. I used to work for
Sorry?
Hitachi, right? I used to build driverless trains, automatic trains. I'm not talking of locomotive trains, diesels. I'm talking of automatic trains. That's what I used to do. And I have friends in Nigeria who used to do very similar work. So I'm
Okay,
just trying to explain to
Femi,
you that
Femi, if
the
you know how
knowledge is not
to,
the problem.
Femi, if you
The
know
knowledge is
how to
not the problem.
manufacture, if
Can
you
I
know how to
finish? The knowledge is
manufacture,
not the
you and
problem.
I,
The second point is I wasn't
Femi,
advising you to go and do empowerment projects. I was asking you that the only differentiator you're gonna have is that you're gonna be able to show evidence that you've done what you're saying you can do. Because
right?
you might believe you can do what you can do, but they don't care about what you say you can do.
So
They
I'm
only
saying to
care
you,
about what you
it's
can
about
show them you
selling.
can do. So if you're saying to them that you can build them electrical, you can build them power stations, they want to see the power station. That's what I'm talking about. So
Okay,
I'm not
and I'm
talking about
saying
you
to,
going
and
to
I'm
give
saying to
empowerment. I
you,
was just using that as an analogy to explain to you that this is how a typical Nigerian thinks.
okay, okay,
Because
okay,
they've been lied to
I
for so
understand
long,
that.
they
Okay,
can only understand results. They don't care about what you say.
okay, but I'm saying to you that if that's what you say Nigerians are, I'm saying to you that it's about time we start changing, helping them to change that perspective.
You
Because
cannot
if
change
we
culture.
don't, we
That
still
is the
remain. Well,
fundamental mistake most people make when they are trying to introduce a new idea to people. You cannot change people's culture. You
yeah,
cannot
but
change
this
how they
is
reason. You cannot change their mentality. You have to
you.
find a way
You're a
to
Nigerian, Femi.
address how they think. The way they think is they want to
Femi,
see. And if you don't show
Femi.
them
Okay,
all whatever
okay.
you
I would have.
anyways, I don't think I should argue with you. I think I would just say
Okay,
something, right? Go ahead, right? Go ahead on this way. Let's meet again in the next 3 months and come and tell me what success you've made of this particular approach. I think that there's no point for you trying to convince me or me trying to convince you. Go ahead with your approach. Let's meet again in 3 months. I think Yemi can invite me to a meeting in 3 months. So that should be around February or March. So go and test this idea that you've talked about. You're going to go and you're going to communicate to them. You're going to share a message. Go in there, go into the market, wherever it is you want to go and start. Go and then show me traction of 3 months. If in 3 months you've made traction of you registered the party, you've been able to win over 1,000 people to join your party because, like I said again, you need 15 million votes to be able to stand a chance of presidency in Nigeria. If you can show me just 1,000 people who are committed to your party, I'm going to join you in 3 months. Otherwise, it's total bullshit.
okay. Look. Like I said, you are a Nigerian, right? And you were born in Nigeria and brought up in Nigeria, right? Right. So there are a few other people that are with us now. Yeah, it's not like thousands of people, and that's because this is a brand new party. We've only just started. But we've had people who are Nigerian born, Nigerian bred, right, who schooled in Nigeria, and they've been able to understand
And
my
they live
message.
abroad. They live abroad.
No, no,
And they will never vote.
does Yemi live abroad? You know Yemi. Does Yemi live abroad?
You know what, Richard? Let me advise you, man.
No, you
Don't
don't
waste your money,
advise me.
right?
Look,
Don't
listen,
waste your
listen,
money. No, I'm not
listen.
advising you. I'm just being
So let
honest with
me
you.
talk.
Don't waste
Let
your
me
money,
talk. You've
right?
made your submission.
Because the guys on the ground are going to waste your money. They're going to waste your resources. The only thing that works in this environment is what you can test. You need to go
But
in there and go and test it. You
I've
can
just
be
asked
popular with
you
people in the
something
US, it
now.
doesn't matter.
Femi,
You can be popular with
Femi,
people in the UK, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
The real point is you want to contest and win elections in
Femi,
Nigeria, you need Nigerians to vote for you. You need to go and get Nigerians, right? And go and do a sampling. Come into Nigeria and
look,
come and test whether they're going to like your idea or not. This is what you need to do.
yeah,
But
that's what I'm
trying to
doing
convince me
already.
on
let me
Clubhouse
help
is
you.
irrelevant. It's like just a waste of my time.
Well, if that's the kind of attitude you have, I would like to say to you that again, that's why we're here, because if we feel that we know too much already and we don't listen to other people, right, then yeah, that's why we're
I've
here.
listened to
You
you.
see,
I've listened to you,
no,
but
you don't feel,
you're not
you
willing to learn. Did you hear what Isaiah said? Did you listen to Isaiah?
look.
You
like I
claimed
said to
his mic
you,
was
like
not
I said
working,
to
but I
you,
heard everything he said.
like I
And he
said to
told you the
you,
actual truth that, look, you
look,
have to come in and come and show results.
do you?
You don't sit in the US
This is
and say
not a
you want to
good
become
attitude,
president of
Obeda.
Nigeria. It's BS. It's never going to work. And you're going to waste all your time. You're going to waste all your money and all your resources. But it's not in my place to advise you. It's up to you. You can do whatever you like. So,
Okay,
sorry, Yemi, I have to be out of this room. I think I'm wasting my time here.
Femi,
look,
just
where do you get this one from, you mate?
you see, the the issue about Nigeria is that most of Nigerians are impatient. You understand? So because of that impatient attitude, we actually like what many, if you remember, I equally sounded like this. If you remember sometimes ago, I think you remember then when I told you that for you to gain the people sad, you need to do something, you need to create. Network is showing a poor connection. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah,
Yeah, if you just come a little closer to your phone, then I'll be able to hear you louder.
yeah. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, better. Yeah.
Okay, because the thing was showing me network, poor network. That was why I said, let me quickly, notice whether you're hearing me. All right. I told you something like this sometimes, if you could remember, when I said we need to rule out some empowerment. If you even know, that was why one of the things Yahya was trying to preach, bring things, bring money, empower people, but when that was not coming forth, looked at it as we are not serious. You understand? So a typical a typical Nigerian will think that whatever that is serious has to show something. You have to do something. Like as he said, also that is why you see, and that is the major problem we have till to date. If you want to do anything, look at, if you remember when he cited the example of solar panel, you need to go and cite a solar panel or this close to their local chief, so that you can show the local chief that, yeah, you enjoy electricity. And that, if you
Yeah.
remember, that was what Fela said about pastors. We Africans, we have our own tradition. We believe in pastors. We believe in imam. All those traditional rulers are the one controlling the masses. You know, People will wake up in the morning, all the resources he has, he will go and give it to an imam or a pastor. So those are the mentality people have. It's only those people that will control them and say, okay, our chief is enjoying solar light.
Mm.
But I look at it that that's the major problem we have, that you see those two major political parties are still striving till today, because whatever anybody wants to clink into power, you first of all come to the locality, give them some palliative or so,
Mm.
so as a result of that, they will now begin to shout your name up and down.
Mm-hmm.
That is how politicians have been doing it. And actually what he's saying, if you look at it, if it is money we are sharing in this room now, this room will be more than 80,000 members. You understand? But now
Yeah,
that
but
we are
they
just,
still wouldn't listen to what we're saying. They're just interested in the money, right?
that is the problem.
Yeah.
That is the problem. But you see, people, okay, like I understand what he's saying. We need people. I remember there was a time I had to call about saying we need to look at the strategy we need to use about if we need to recruit people and do something about that. Because an average Nigerian, this will not change so easily now. And that is why those, if you see Isaiah, I think you say you were not hearing Isaiah very well. Isaiah was also portrayed what this guy said, that there is
Yeah,
every need
yeah.
for us to show some empowerment at the root, if it is like agricultural program or whatever things that we need to do. You understand? So I think to a very large extent, that is how difficult, because some of those politicians keep on using this same method on them, and it's still going to work on them. You that will come and say, oh, if you look at most of the things that happen during Buhari's regime, because they believe Buhari will be able to change things and all that. But now things have eventually become worse, than what we used to have.
Yeah.
If you call for a community meeting now, a man was narrating his own situation. He said, when I said we should educate people, he said, when you call for a meeting, you won't see anybody there. But wait till when those people who are dashing them money will call for a meeting, you see thousands of them assembled. You understand?
Yeah.
So the mindset of our people, that is why you see after so many trials, you see people who get tired of this country. That is why even when I was talking with those guys that are talking about agitation, I said, I understand your plight, that the country is not working. Even when you try to, the majority of the people who you are even thinking that they should talk, they will keep on, Igbos are people that they are well traveled and all that. So that is why you see them, they are able to know that these are the other systems we see in other places, and this is not how things are done. So things are not working. But the other people, average Nigerians, there are people that, I will give you an instance. There are people you can give just 10,000 naira to, and their story will change, because with 10,000 naira, they'll just need to do is to get to the road and start frying akara. You understand?
And
So
that
once they are
they insulted.
you understand? And once they are frying akara for people to buy, or doing buns or puff puff, they believe that you've changed their economy. You understand? So
Yeah.
that is the mentality of what we have already, because the poverty line is just so high. So we have that very big problem, and coupled with the fact that when we said to people that the party is not really registered, they'll just look at it and say, these people are not serious. You understand? Because they have Nigerians, we already said this before, it's just that we're repeating it again, want an already made things. Most Nigerians don't want to labor anymore. You understand? He did mention, he did said something about when you begin to speak and see that you have a white man accent, and they will just say, the average Nigerian will look at what can they gain, what is their immediate benefit. You
Yeah.
understand? That
Not
is
that they will
just
say accent. I'm not the first person who has an English accent or something like that. We have Nigerians in the thousands, probably
that
millions.
have,
We have,
yes,
yeah,
definitely.
and we have leaders who speak what they
You
call
understand?
Queen's English.
Ah,
Tafawa Balewa, Azikiwe, Awolowo. Those guys, yeah, all of them, they
yeah.
speak,
I
Queen's
I
English.
I understand the point he's making. He's trying to tell you how an average Nigerian thinks, because they always look at how, and that is what has held us back to where we are till today. I know how many couple of people that will just tell me after I talked about Ajakuta, I say, this guy, you're just wasting your time. You understand? So, but I just believe that this is what I didn't ask you to give me any money for doing this. So even if I waste my time, I'll learn from it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You understand? So
Yeah.
that's it. That's it. So, and our impatient attitude too. He just look at it and say, this thing, we're wasting our time here. He just left. So is not a way that's the way most Nigerians think. Most, I'm sorry to say, that is why you see that every reasonable person who wants to make it an
You're
impact.
absolutely right about. That's why I was saying that we cannot continue to do the same thing over and over again, and we expect a different result. If we expect that, we should do it the way they've been doing it. We will certainly get the same result that they've been getting. And I mean, nobody will believe them. They will just do it, but for the financial gain that they want, and nothing else. But that other guy, he's like you say, he's an impatient guy. He also think he knows more than he actually knows. I mean, all the technical things that he was saying about, the quality of the iron ore composition of Nigeria, the sub quality, that they need beneficiation, things like that. The guy does not know, right? I'm sure he doesn't even have a good information about what natural resources states have, because what he doesn't know, that the ones that we're talking about, of course, like just like how you pointed out, they find some iron ore that are not of the good quality to make steel, but the iron ore composition deposits right in Itakwe, Ajabanoka, Oshoko, these are certified
These are
iron
new
ore.
ones. At the time of those Russians in Nigeria, those ones were not discovered.
Well, Ajabanoko and Oshoko.
That's the problem. You understand?
Oh,
Those
you
are
mean the new ones he's talking
even
about?
when they now, sir.
You mean the new ones he's talking about? But Ajabanoko was discovered years
he
before,
was.
when the Russians are here, and they are completely certified to be good quality. But he was talking about, they're not certified, and the impurities, they are sulfate impurities. Of course, they are sulfate impurities, sulfate and iron ore. That's why they use limestone. God damn it!
Yes, those are. Yes, you are right. The problem that those are articles that I read online. Most of those things you Google. There are most. The problem Nigerians also have that most of our research are not published, that the world can even have access to. You understand? So that is another issue.
But he doesn't have to come here and start making those kind of statements, unless he thinks he's talking to people who don't know what they're talking about. It's even saying that the oven is not built in Ajaokuta, that the oven is not built at all. What? I mean, maybe the oven is not operational, but to say it's not built.
The problem we have about Ajaokuta, as he was saying, many people, they want Ajaokuta sold. So they will try to look at ways of talking down Ajaokuta to people to believe that the technology is obsolete, is no longer in use and all that, And that was why I mentioned that Ajaokuta is the only this talking about whether environmental friendly, is an environmental friendly machine that
for extracting the iron ore.
Yes, you understand. that no waste gas that will be released to the sky. So it has a way of cleaning it before it will be released. You understand? The gas is recycled and all those things, you know. So it's just that our
Yeah.
government, they are not sincere, you know. They don't want to look at things happening. We sometimes we look at them as if once they get there, they are engulfed with the little money they are seeing.
Yeah. Yeah, but he mentioned something about the charcoal, right, in
Yeah,
Nigeria. They're not cokeable. And I
yeah,
thought, what is that? That which charcoal is not cokeable? They must have been lying to him so that they don't have to
yeah. The
process the charcoal and they can just import the coke. Does he know the process of how charcoal are cooked?
the cookable that was initially, you know, those things that people use to import things, you know. It's just like they want to import some of those their equipment, you know, billets and all those things. So they have, like what we said okay, they said they look at it's just like if I come into your house and I've already seen there are political differences, you know. So those contractors understand this. So when they look at it, they say, you cannot fund this thing if we say we want to complete blast furnace. Why not we start from rolling mill and we start working down? That was the reason they start bringing in billets. You understand? You can hear
Yeah,
me on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So they start bringing in billets so that the rolling mills can be working, so they can be rolling other steel products,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So because we are talking about backward integration, where the Ajakuta itself, through the rolling mill, will be able to fund itself. You understand? Because then we're now complaining
Yeah,
that
I
there is
understand.
no
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, so that's the kind of the information that he was trying to push out, which is not correct. But he was trying to justify his claim that yeah, it will not be possible to do it, or it makes sense to just be importing billets and then just be rolling out flat or whatever, a little bit shaped steel, you know. So I mean, because I've never heard of charcoal that's not cookable. This is the first time I heard it. Yeah, of course I've
No,
heard of
yeah,
stories that you know that
there
they're
are
importing
no,
coke
there are
because
charcoals that are not cookable. There are coal that are not cookable. There are non-cookable coal. There are cookable coal. There are.
well I don't know about that because if the understanding of charcoal into coke that I know, right, if you
No,
look at the process,
it's coal.
it's how
It's
to do
coal. You know,
something. Hmm?
it's cold.
Sorry, what do you mean? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I said what we're talking about is coal. Coal is natural resources like that. So that is why I was talking about the coke batteries. You understand? So if that place, that is where it is being cooked to coke.
So Ajakuta is trying to produce coke
Yes, there is a place where the coal will be turned into coke.
into coke. Yeah, but is it ever been operational?
It is. There are. That is why I was telling you about that some
So
of
Nigeria
those
is producing coke. We're not importing coke,
we have the facility to produce coke.
but
There
we're
is
not
already there.
using it yet. But we're not using it yet.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. That the facility to produce coke from coal is there, but we never use it. Instead, we're importing coke.
Yes, those are the things, those are the
So,
wrong
but
advice those people gave Nigerian government.
to import coke instead of producing coke, right?
Yes, yes.
Right. So, but it's not because that the coal that we have, it's not cookable. That's the point I'm trying to make. That if the facilities are there in Ajaokuta to produce coke from coal, it means that our coal can be cooked. We can convert them into coke. And if you look at the process of converting coal into coke, it's not something that really would eliminate anything, because what all it does really is just reducing, right, or removing the sulfur concentration in coal. And when it does that, it makes it smaller because it heats it up and compacts it. Any coal can be made into into coke. You can argue about how efficiently it burns, but it will be coke because the sulfur and the carbon content, well, is taken out. Those are the two things that need to be burned out of it, and then it becomes smaller and more solid, but lighter in weight.
Yeah, that's why I was saying the technology as at the time Ajaokuta was built was not yet understood by any nation. You understand? So it's also
Mm-hmm.
contributed to the failure of that project then.
Yeah, that's true. And then it talked about comparative advantage, the fact that no country produces everything. Of course, that's just down to the fact that it makes a lot of things that we talked about. This is about utilizing your natural resources. If you have the natural resources, there's no point in extracting them and then exporting them to another
Yeah.
country, because all natural resources can always convert it into raw materials or eventually finished products. And if you've got the raw materials, right? So if you've got the natural resources, why not process them and produce whatever you can produce with it?
Yeah.
And if you don't have the natural resources, import the natural resources that you need and make finished products from it. And if you do it that way, you'll be able to create a lot more jobs, because that means you'll be able to produce a lot more products from different industries, right, that exist. And also, you can carve out new industries where you can start producing those products. And then, when you can generate lots of jobs, right, by having small, condensed companies, right, all over the local government and all over the states, it means you can create millions of jobs that way. Then the second phase, of course, of the industrialization, right, consists of when we will start consolidating, right, all those businesses in different industries, because now we've been able to establish what our strengths are. And that's when you can actually utilize that concept of comparative advantage, where you will choose to produce products where you have comparative advantages over others, mostly cost of producing them. So this is the fundamentals of comparative advantages. But anyway, it didn't hang around for, yeah, to hear something about that. You know what I mean? Of course, that's the attitude of those kind of people. They will come in, just drop rubbish, and then they run off, you know? So, but anyways, yeah, we've um, we've been able to cover quite a lot tonight, right? Yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, of course, we have Tunde managed to take us back quite a bit. Yeah. So we we can pretty much just touched on the financing bit, because we've talked about GENCO, um, about TRANCO, and about discos. So the financing aspect really, it's something that Hello?
Yeah, you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Right. So that's
Okay.
pretty much it's a part that I would not be talking a lot about at this moment. And that's because I wanted to not release everything into open air. So that because people might start taking advantage of what's on the ground when they hear how we're actually planning and providing finances for the project or the plan to provide as much megawatts of electricity as we're talking about. But the fundamentals about the finance is just based on the fact that it's going to be the private sector of the economy that will be financing all of those things. Now, the government will play a role, and that's of course the major role, which will help entice and also encourage, motivate, and yeah, inventorize people to take this step to invest into those projects. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, whilst the private sector will be the part of the government that will, or the part of the society that will be involved in all of the financing of it, the government's role will be to make available the capacity first for the financing institution in the country, which of course include the banks, the central banks, and all of those other NGOs that can help in shaping or create financial instruments. So what the government's role will be there will be to provide things like credit, things like guarantees, right? And so those are the two things that the government will be involved in, and the last one will be to also work on the legislation that would allow one of our strategy that will let us create wealth. This will be done via that government policy of making credit facilities available and also guarantee business guarantee models that we will use. So these are the three major roles that the government will play: credit availability and facilitation, guarantee model, and also legislature. Now, for the credit facilities, the idea would be for the government to make sure that the financial institutions like the banks and the central bank have enough funding available to help with the startups of companies that will be producing, let's say, like say, generating electricity or transmitting or distributing. The idea would be to pull out people from different parts of the economy or of the society that will come together and start creating small companies, right? And these small companies will be in different formation, right? Now, there are, of course, different companies structured in Nigeria. We have something like the sole proprietorship, where you have like just one man business, just one person, uh, and you have the partnership where you have two or more than two people come together and they set up a business based on agreement that will suit both partners. And then, of course, you have the public limited liability. Now, these public limited liabilities are companies that are allowed to raise capital or financial resources from the public. So that means that these people, they can issue shares out to the public and raise financing from the public, uh, and they have, of course, limited liability because they are a separate entity from the company that they established. Now, because limited liability companies are obliged or they're allowed to raise finance from the public, they also have the responsibility to publish their business operation and reports. Now, that responsibility is what brings in transparency, and that's the most unique element that is needed for efficiency and effectiveness, because when people are transparent with business operations and reporting, it allows the people who own the company, like the shareholders, to have a reasonable insight into what's going on in the company, most especially the financial position of the company. This will help in being able to monitor and control the operation of the company so that it becomes something that's not being done in a closed cupboard where nobody sees what's going on other than the people who are actually in that cupboard. So transparency is vital. And this is one of the reasons why we've chosen to go in that road. So that means that this kind of business structure is what we'll be using quite a lot of, because we want to ensure that businesses that are set up have that obliged responsibility of being transparent. Otherwise, they can just do whatever they like and nobody sees anything. So that's why this is going to be the most favorite of all of different business structure that we will be using. The other reason for that, it's also because it would allow us to cover niche um, policies that will allow us to create wealth. We'll be explaining a little more about that later on, because what that is going to do is it's going to ensure that all of the people that participate in every single business have the choice to have share in the company that they are working for. So that means that if you're pulled into a group of people that will start a company, those people who are part of the initial startup will have a chance to buy shares in the company themselves. And these shares will be guaranteed by the government to ensure that to ensure that they have an vested interest in the company as well. The purpose of, for that is to encourage efficiency, because when people naturally realize that, okay, they have a vested interest in the performance of a company, they tend to put more effort into ensuring that it succeeds. This is, of course, one of the advantages of when a company is a sole proprietorship, when it's the when a person owns a business, they tend to work harder because they want the business to succeed. They know that whether the business fails or succeed, it all depends on their effort. So they're willing to put more effort into it. So if you push that forward, and you apply that to a situation where people have they own a part of the company that they are working for or they are managing, the tendency is they will put more effort into ensuring that that company succeed. So that's basically the idea behind um, yeah incentivizing new businesses to take that plunge and put their efforts into achieving success with their newfound companies. So that's really the idea behind it. And we believe that when this is done in a large scale, we'll have a lot of people who are in a position to make money. Well, despite the fact that they are working for that company, they will be making money and they will have a chance to buy more shares in the company as the company becomes more successful. So taking that forward, that will help wealth creation in a big way. This is the kind of policies that you see advanced countries use, where they encourage people to set up their own businesses, and they back them up and support them with the right financial strategies that allows them to operate independently, but also um, more commitment towards achieving their goals and objectives. So that's really the essence of adopting that kind of strategy that will help us spread wealth and ensure that it's the ordinary Nigerians that will benefit mostly from this industrialization. So that pretty much covers the financing aspect of the operation. We will be explaining more in the future if that's needed about the finance, but that's just basically how it's going to work. The thing that we will talk later on will, of course, be what kind of legislature are we looking forward to influencing, or what will be um, the the structure of the business share composition. So basically, like saying, okay, how much percentage share will the starters have from new businesses? Those kind of things. Like what sort of other guarantees would the government play in ensuring that starters can start their new project? And also, what kind of legislature will government be trying to push um, to help ensure that there is adequate protection for people who are starting these businesses, in order to ensure that they're not stifled or smothered away by existing competition in the country, or probably through foreign investment. So these are the kind of things that will articulate later on or emphasize on later on when the need arises. But for now, we have pretty much covered every aspect of it. So, if do you have any comments quickly before we round it off? Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Now, with that note, I think we can bring these to the end.
Yeah.
Um, I would like to thank everyone who's been part of this, especially you, Yemi. Thank you very much for everything you've put into it. I know it's quite demanding, but you've been there with me, with the rest of us. So my appreciation to you, big time.
Thank you.
And I look forward to us taking more of our messages to our people so they can see the picture that we see in front of us, and they can believe that when the resources are there, when the knowledge are there, and all of the people who can make the difference are willing to pull their weight and make their contribution, um, we can always succeed. So thank you very
All
much,
right.
Yemi.
Thank you, sir.
We can call it today now.
Yeah. All right. So
Conclusion.
I'm going to.
Yeah? Okay.